Jessica de la Garza, how the hell are you?
I'm here.
How are you dealing with all, oh shoot, I have your Facebook page up right here, and you're doing the little thing with the olives.
Oh yeah, I was making flautas the other night, and I was like, oh, I used to do this when I was a kid. Like I would put like the olives on my. I mean, not just when I was a kid. I do that. Obviously, I still do it as an adult. But I've just been trying to be a little bit more creative with the content that I'm putting out. I mean, we don't always have to put like our whole comedy set online. Like sometimes it's just silly little things like a 2 or 3 second video. But I don't know. I think that it helps us like be more creative, or it helps me anyway, be more creative.
It definitely helps me be more creative, and it also gets us acclimated with some of the tools and resources that are out there, right? Like there's not just like our camera phone, there's like these apps that we could use to like add audio or to like even make the film grainier and stuff like that. But it's definitely it's a time to find new ways to be creative, most definitely.
To adapt, really. Um,
Yeah.
like I've been using TikTok a lot more. I have an 11-year-old son, and he literally had to show me how to use some parts of it.
Which don't feel bad because I hear that from most comics that are not in their early 20s, right? They're just like, I had to have my son teach me, or my nephew, somebody is teaching them TikTok, and once they get the hang of it, though, they're going. How long have you been doing TikTok?
Not very long. I started just putting a couple of silly little stuff on there. I like that you can use other people's sounds. And then I think that part's really cool because you get to see the different facial expressions and how creative people are with just the sounds. Because it could be like a simple sound, but then they make it funnier by adding their own captions.
Yeah, yeah. A friend of mine, she got pretty big on TikTok. Carolyn Martin, but she just recently kind of slowed down with the whole TikTok thing. But she was just like the amount of views she was getting in a day was just crazy. You could really blow up really quick on TikTok because like
You can. And I mean, not just comics, like other people, like one of my best friends, she's a tarot reader. Um, you can find her on Slap Tarot on TikTok, but she just blew up. She has like 60,000 followers, and she literally had it for less than a month, and it just took off. But it wasn't like she had been working at it for like 2 years on different social media platforms, but TikTok just happened to be the right platform and it took off. So it's not like she didn't put in the work and she just went viral. Like she had already been consistently putting content out, but that platform like helped her grow immensely.
yeah, you kind of touched on something that I think is really important is that like you got to constantly be creating and you have to be ready to seize the moment when it's given to you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's super important. Um
I try to I'll post something on TikTok, but then I'll like cross post. I'll put it like on Instagram, on Facebook, because like you just have to like I said, like you have to find that right platform. So if you're putting the content out, at least you can put it out on all of the different social media platforms.
yeah. What do you have one that's kind of like your favorite right now, or are you trying to get across to all of them?
Um, I would say that Instagram is my favorite, like just to post, but I like watching TikTok more just because it's so silly. Like you don't have to be following someone in order to see the content. It's just very user friendly. Like whereas if you go to Instagram, you have to go to a specific tab. When you open TikTok, like it takes you like your for you page. Like that just has stuff that's like whatever algorithm is like watching you and like knows what you like, and so it'll put content that you're more likely to appreciate. So mine's
Right.
a lot of comedy. It's like a mix of comedy, inspirational quotes, and like tarot reading and spirituality. Like it's a whole mix of things.
Do you get sucked into the TikTok rabbit hole for
I can if I'm not careful. So
yeah.
I try to be careful. Like, oh, I've watched like I look at my favorite section, I'm like, wow, there's really way too many videos in here. Cause like I'll favorite something because I want to go watch it again later.
Okay.
So I mean, I feel like any social media platform can really like just get you in that zone where you just kind of zone out and you're just scrolling and scrolling or commenting. So I've actually took last month I took a social media break. Or no, it was a month before last, and I wasn't on any social media for a little over 30 days, and it felt really refreshing because like I would wake up and not look at my phone. I would just like start my day.
Yeah, I noticed when you fell off social media because I enjoy your content. It's never redundant, and it's you do a lot of like positive content, right? And it's silly sometimes, yeah. But when you took a break, I noticed that you were gone.
And
So
I was so surprised because like you noticed, and I actually got a lot of messages from people like, hey, are you okay? I'm like, yes, I'm okay. I just needed like a break. Because then everything started getting political and just getting flooded with all of this stuff. I'm like, I don't need to see everyone's point of view. Like you can go
right.
vote how you're gonna vote. I'm gonna vote how I'm gonna vote. I'm not gonna be arguing with people, especially people that I know in real life.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's pointless, and you're absolutely right. Like, you're gonna vote your way, I'm gonna vote my way. Like I was telling my sister yesterday, like there's a reason why there's in traditional voting booths. That's it's a booth. It's like it's with a curtain, so people can't see who you're
It's
voting
like
for.
your
Like,
privacy.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I made a comment yesterday that I'm so glad that it's so relieving right now that the people I'm snoozing right now, they're not going to pop up back on my feed until after the election.
Which is
So
awesome.
yeah, yeah, I'm super glad that this is almost behind us. Regardless of the outcome, I mean, we're here and we gotta make the best of it. You know?
I'm just ready for it to be over.
Yeah,
Like I'm tired of getting like the little mailers. I'm tired of getting stuff hung on my door. I'm tired of hearing like the radio ads. There was like a radio ad that mentioned like supporting something was like supporting white supremacy. I was like, holy cow, like they really went there on just like the regular radio.
yeah,
I don't remember it ever being this crazy.
yeah.
Like just saturated.
I tried to watch regular TV yesterday because I did a YouTube TV subscription so I could watch the baseball playoffs. And it was during the day, and I was kind of scrolling, and I was like, oh wow, Drew Barrymore has a talk show. I'll check this out, you know. So I hit play, and it was like 3 minutes of political ads before the show even started, and I was like, sorry, Drew, can't do it, you know. Like it's
And like
just
those things are so annoying, like the ads. I mean, I know it's how the content creators on YouTube make like a lot of their money, because if you watch the full ad instead of skipping it, it like gives them like they're getting paid for that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I can't do it right now, man. I can't do it. But hopefully this will all be behind us. So you how long have you been doing comedy? I'm not really sure because I've only been doing comedy about 2 years, and I'm up here in Sacramento. Like I grew up in Lamont, so like I know Bakersfield. Like that's that's my stomping grounds. I left
That's
Baker.
so funny. You grew up in Lamont.
I grew up in Lamont, dude.
I literally just moved to Lamont.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I had been in Bakersfield for a long time and I just moved here because I'm renting like my stepdad's house. So, because I had like a little 2 bedroom apartment in Bakersfield. So I'm like, 3 bedroom house, 2 bedroom apartment. I can, pros and cons, you know?
You're like I can get a dog.
I mean, I have a dog already, but just having a yard is so much better.
Yes, yes. I love that I can leave my screen door open this much and my dog can go in and out, you
Yeah.
know, and I could see her, I could hear her, I could hear the kids next door saying talking to her, you know. But so
To
I
answer your
grew
question, I kind of like skewed away from that.
that's all right, man. That's all right. It's
Uh,
unscripted.
I
But
started doing comedy around April 2018.
okay, so you got like 6 months on me, I think, because I started September of 2018.
Okay.
Okay, so we're right about the same time frame, but right before the shutdown, your and I don't want to get it wrong, but I might get it wrong. Your room Tell me about the room you started in Bakersfield.
So I'm just a partner, like a small
Okay.
partner in Room 82, which is like the only comedy club in Bakersfield right now. Um, it's it is also a music venue too. It's
Okay.
really built around comedy. Like the stage is beautiful. It's showcasing a lot of like 80s, like the background of the stage is just like tons and tons of 80s stuff. There's like a mural in there that has like some like older comedians. It's pretty retro. It's like literally 80s themed.
Yeah, I saw pictures of it, and I want to say that my good friend Johnny Taylor did a show there.
Oh no, he has not done a show there, but he was my headliner
Him
because I
and
produce shows too. I haven't since COVID because it's really the shows that I've done are always based on trying to get a nonprofit more like
yeah, seen
exposure.
that.
So that show, those shows that I did at a bar downtown, which is called Backdoor Bar. Um,
Okay.
Yes, and so he was one of my headliners for those shows. But
Okay.
right after Room 82 opened, then the pandemic hit. So like I haven't produced any physical shows.
So how long had room 82, right? Or
Yes.
I don't know why I want to make it a three-digit number. Like I don't know why. Like what why 82? Why'd you settle on 82?
So the so like Justin Cummings, which is a person who actually started it all,
Mhm.
I want to say that he was born in like 82.
Okay.
So I mean that I'm pretty sure that that's what it was. And so that's where the 82 came from.
So how long had it been open right when the lockdown started? Not long, right?
No, it opened, I want to say in February. And then I started hosting the open mic nights there like every Sunday. And then I think we only had maybe one or two shows. And then the pandemic hit. So everything kind of just is closed for now.
Is
Because
it do you think you're going to be able to bring it back, or is it on permanent hiatus for now?
I would imagine that when bars are actually open, because in Bakersfield, bars are not open unless they have food.
Okay, okay.
So entertainment venues like that aren't open right now.
And have
So
you are you guys close to getting to the next tier?
I'm not sure to be honest, because they literally just reopened this week. Like,
Okay.
yeah, it was this week that they reopened dine in. So it always depends on the numbers because the
Right.
numbers are what puts you into those tiers. And Kern County had been like teetering, like just going back and forth, always on like the watch list. So we
Yeah.
just got, I think like movie theaters, restaurants, like those things started just opening this week.
Yeah. It was really looking like cuz like there was like room 82 Trimler Brewing was doing comedy shows.
Yeah, Hemler
And
has a lot of comedy too.
yeah, and it really looked like Bakersfield was having a really solid comedy scene. What do you think? Was it getting there, or had it been there? What how
I
is it?
The comedy scene was here well before I even started comedy. Um, a lot of the comedians that are in Bakersfield now are kind of like what helped start the comedy scene in Bakersfield.
Mhm.
And it's pretty strong here. Honestly, Bakersfield is a very tough crowd. Like I have people, like people will come from LA, like they're not used to our crowd.
It is kind of a it's because it's so ethnically and socially mixed in Bakersfield, and
Yeah.
it's because like Bakersfield is sprawling. It's spread apart, and but we're so used to traveling from one side of town to another to do something. So like in towns where like Sacramento, where like there's a midtown scene, and then there's like an uptown scene, and then there's like the Oak Park scene. Those people kind of cluster to that scene, but like in Bakersfield you're more apt to get somebody to travel from one side of town to another side of town, right?
And I mean, it's good though that it's so hard to get people to laugh here because it strengthens you as a comic.
Definitely, yeah, definitely. It's when, especially when like you've had a run of like two or three really good nights, and then you go out and you have a rough night. It's humbling, and you realize, "Ah, I'm probably not that funny. And you have one of those nights,
Nice
right?
slice of humble pie.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Had you had a chance to do shows out of town yet, or
Yes. I've been fortunate enough to do shows out of town. I've done some in LA. I've done some like in Tulare, Visalia. Um, I was really fortunate. Last year, I went on vacation in London and I got to perform on a newcomer show out there. So that was probably like the highlight of comedy for me. Oh, and I performed in Pasadena too.
nice? What was it like performing in London? Like, is it
It's
because it's
very intelligent humor.
okay?
And they really appreciated my style of comedy. So I was very thankful and I hope to go back there because I feel like that would be my crowd.
It's tough that your crowd's so far away.
It's a lot of dry humor and just it's not just like the in your face like high energy type of comedy.
Hmm.
um it like stuff that like requires a little bit more thought, easily stuff that can just go over your head and not realize it.
Yeah, yeah. So it's not. Is it more of a storytelling type crowd, or is it still like one liners and or
I would say that they're great with both.
okay?
I'm more of a storyteller comic, so for me it was awesome.
Hmm. What how what generation are you? Because like I'm a first generation, so like my parents are from Mexico. What about yourself? Are you like is your family, have they already been here a long time?
Yes, my family's been here a long time. I only have one grandparent that's from Mexico.
Okay.
Um, one of them, like I recently did a DNA test because I started studying Chicano history.
Uh huh.
And so, you know how like Texas and other states used to actually belong to Mexico before the Mexican American War? Like
Right.
I traced my dad's side of the family, like to because my grandpa's from Texas. So I traced them all the way back to like the 1700s, like when they were here before it was even like the United States.
They were there in the valley, or where
They were
where?
they were there in Texas before it was like the United States.
Oh, okay, okay. So they've been there.
Yeah, but I'm not too sure my mom's side of the family. I know that those grandparents were born here too. So I don't have like a lot of was always so jealous of people that had family in Mexico because they'd always like on vacation, they'd go on vacation like for the holidays, and but all of our families here already. So like we never
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah, and you know what the irony of that is that when I was young, I didn't really enjoy going to Mexico as much, but once I got an appreciation for it, like now I love going to Mexico, and I wish that those vacations could be longer, and I wish that they could be more often, and like there's like a part of me in the back of my head, like every time I go, I'll start talking to one of my cousins, and I'll be like, okay, so when I retire, you got a house back there, right? And they're like, fine, come on. Like it is such a, um, I don't want to say laid back because they are very hardworking, but it just life just moves at a slower pace. It's
I
not the
find that in every country because I just started traveling a few years ago to different countries, and every country is so different than the States.
more a more relaxed, slower pace than
It feels like a slower pace. I mean, of course, when you go to like busier cities that are more
yeah,
touristy
yeah.
and stuff, like those are a little bit more fast paced, but just like their culture and like the style, like how they live, it's more relaxed.
Yeah, yeah. One thing I noticed too is like when you like in Mexico, like when you sit down to eat, like you sit down to eat, like you're not like in a rush to like, like get carry out food and eat and just get it done. Like you're like it's the whole dining experience. And like I think it seems to me like from what I haven't traveled to, no, I haven't traveled to any other countries. I had to think about it for a second. Uh, I've been to like Mexico, Canada, and New York City, But from what it seems like, you know, meals are like an event, and it's just like people like sit down and enjoy it. Like I watch a lot of Anthony Bourdain, you know, and it just seems like, yeah, everything is a much more relaxed pace.
And I feel like that's true too in a lot of the Hispanic culture, because if you like, when I look back at my childhood, like everything revolved around food. Like my tias and my grandma would be in the kitchen making tortillas, making salsa, making guacamole, and then like my tios would be outside barbecuing. Like everyone has like this great passion for food, and that's like what brings us all together.
Yes, yes. And then we come together and we eat, and then even afterwards, like you know what I love about like the Mexican culture is like the early dinner and the late dinner, right? Like somewhere late afternoon and then again late at night. And another thing I love about the Mexican culture is the pan dulce with the coffee in the morning, which
See, so like this is a weird thing, I'm sure, because I thought it was normal, but like, because you know how like if you have a barbecue or something, like a lot of people drink, and then like the next morning you have menudo.
yeah,
So what my mom would do was buy pan dulce, and then like we would eat that with our menudo. Like I would, like myself, I like dip it in my menudo.
really, do you still do that?
I still do that. And I
You know
know that
what?
it's weird. I didn't know that it was weird until now.
It might be a regional thing because with my family, it's corn tortillas with menudo, right? But my best friend, I went to have like the first time I had menudo with his parents, they have bolillos with their menudo,
I've
and
heard that. I've
and
heard
it's
people say that.
super good. I was like, "What bolillo?" They're like, "Yeah, you don't dunk it." And I'm like, "No." And I'm like, "Let me try this," and it was super good. Like, I think it's a regional thing, and yeah, it is a little bit different. But I'm not gonna call anything that someone grew up
you,
doing weird.
you have to be a fan of sweet and savory food to be able to do it, which I am. So, and my mom is too. So that I'm pretty sure that's where I got it from.
What's your go to pan dulce?
A concha.
Oh, you're old fashioned.
For sure, concha.
What color concha?
I sometimes I like the white ones, and sometimes I prefer the pink ones. It honestly depends on how much sugar they put on it.
You know, one time we were in Mexico, and my one of my cousins said, "Come on, let's go get some pan dulce," and I was like, "All right." And we went and talk about the slower pace of life. Like we got there, and the pan dulce wasn't done yet, and we got to watch them put it in the oven and then take it out, put the sugar on, put it back in. My mouth was just watering, and that was the best pan dulce like I ever had. Like the sugar was still like sparkling on it, like it was just crazy.
And doesn't it make you wonder, like, is it the anticipation that made you enjoy it so much more, instead of like here, like we just everything is available all the time. There's like
Yeah,
a wait time. Like we know we can just have it.
yeah, definitely the anticipation, and just then but then also like the whole thing with food is like also like having it be warm, like having a warm piece of pan dulce, like that was crazy. Like that wasn't, you know, that's not something we have all the time. Now that you're in Lamont, are you going to the Carnita Surapan to get your pan dulce?
Um, I like to go there for the carnitas,
Yes.
but I haven't, honestly, I haven't bought any pan dulces since I literally just moved here in August. So like I haven't
Wow.
been here that long.
Uh-huh.
So I'm just like like just adjusting to everything, because I like, and when I lived in Bakersfield, I lived like very central. So I could just like go everywhere. Like everything was super close to me because I was so central. And so
Hmm.
like I'm just adjusting to not being like to not having everything readily available for me.
Yeah, you got to get used to the slower pace of life.
I mean,
There's
even the
an
speed limit is slower here.
there's another El Fugon, right? So there's El Fugon, like they do pan dulce, but not a fan of their pan dulce. I'm more the carnitas or the pan dulce. But
That's literally down the street from where I live.
we've been going to the carnitas store since they were on Panama Lane, right next to I guess dude's barbershop is there now, but it used to be right there, right where that barbershop is on Panama Lane, across kind of catty corner from, what is that, a Rite Aid?
Possibly.
I can't remember. Yeah, so you're still kind of new to Lamont. That's so crazy that you live in Lamont now, and I grew up there.
Yeah.
And whenever I come home, I when I drive. So my mom lives on the other side of town, on the Taco Loco, like where the original Taco Loco is. I don't even know if it's still open, but my mom lives on that side of town. So whenever I come home to visit, I always drive through Lamont as many times as possible, and it's still, as much as it's changed, it's still, I mean, it's still home. And I just love how many taco trucks there is now at the ready. Like it used to be like few and far between the taco trucks, but now, man, they're everywhere, and they're different styles because all the different regions are represented. Are you a taco person? Do you enjoy those trucks?
I do. I love tacos. I think I appreciate Mexican food so much more now, because when I was like a teenager, like all my friends are like, "Oh, let's go get Mexican food." I'm like, "Why? I eat that all the time." Like, but now, like, I appreciate it so much more. So I do love tacos. I'm okay. So I'm not a fan of the meat in, but like in menudo.
Okay, yeah, that's very common, very
So
common.
for that, like I just eat the hominy.
Yeah,
But I love pozole.
I was gonna say the people that aren't a fan of the meat and the menudo, that just do the hominy, they a lot of times end up switching over and being pozole people.
And for me, it's the texture.
Is
Like
it?
it's
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I get that, and a lot of people say that about the texture of the hominy. Um, you seem to be kind of like a real big social advocate. Where did that start? Has that always been something that you were? Because like you say now you're studying Chicano history, and you say that the shows that you produced in the past, you always, and I was checking out your social media last night. You always donate some of the proceeds to like a local, I want to say
yes.
nonprofit, but
So whatever nonprofit. So when I was producing those shows, each month we would highlight a different nonprofit,
yeah,
um, and then a portion of the proceeds would go to that nonprofit, because obviously, like, the entertainers have to be paid. That's one of the biggest things for me when I started comedy, like the lack of people paying the entertainers. Like like you're supposed to be happy with crumbs. Like, no, like the entertainers are the show, they deserve to get paid. But I would say that I got a lot stronger in like advocating for different causes, because um, just last year I dealt with a lot of health issues. I have something called endometriosis, which is more stable now. um, but I didn't know that there was so much literature available for that specific health issue. Like there's like a whole nonprofit based on it. And so I'm like, wow, like we have so many different nonprofits in town that nobody knows about. Like just like how I didn't know anything about the nonprofit for what I had. And there's so many other people who didn't know about the different nonprofits in Bakersfield, because Bakersfield honestly is a very caring community. Um, it gets in the media, it gets really bad notice. It's not
yeah,
really for anything good here, but the people here are very amazing. So I just wanted to give back, like, to those people who are putting in their time and they're like volunteering basically. Because when you're like a member of a nonprofit, or if you're on the board of a nonprofit, that's just, you're volunteering, you're not getting paid for that.
right, right. That's great. Um, have you been during this lockdown or whatever we want? We call it so many things, but like all the things that we call it seem to have like a negative connotation, right? So I try to stay away from like the pandemic or the lockdown, but like during this period that we haven't been able to do comedy, aside from the content that you've been trying to put out on social media, have you been able to do any writing?
I have written a little bit. I haven't written as much as I've wanted to. I kind of just, I'm not sure if it was like everything just falling apart at once because of the pandemic. Because for me, I was working for a nonprofit. They had funding for like an actual position. And then I was also working at a bakery too. So I was working both of those jobs. And then when the pandemic hit, funds have to be redirected because everything has to be reassessed to fit the needs that we were once, like, we could no longer serve. So that position got eliminated. So then now I'm working at a different bakery because the other bakery I was working at, they also closed due to the pandemic.
Oh man.
So for me, it's just been like, it's been interesting for me. So I think I've been more focused on that. And then also I'm in school right now too. I went back to school for a Spanish degree. And
Oh,
so,
nice.
thank you. That also kind of fell along with like me learning more of Chicano history. Like I want to know who I am, like where I come from. I mean,
Mhm.
obviously I was born here, but I want to know my heritage more.
Yeah, yeah. That's important. That's important. And I think every good Chicano goes through that moment of realization in their life. Like like you're like because you realize that. Well, like I realized when I was in school, like at Vineland and at Sunset and at Arvin High, that like nobody in the history books looked like me. Like and like no, and then when we'd celebrate holidays and we'd talk about World War I and World War II, like none of the heroes looked like me, right? But
And that is so messed up because the history books that we had when we were growing up literally leave out Hispanic people. When Hispanic people are some of the most decorated veterans, like from the previous wars. And I think that's what made me feel so much more empowered um, with my heritage because I started learning like just all of the stuff that the history books were leaving out.
right, right. Um, so where was I going with that? I can't even remember. But so yeah, I went through the like March, April, May, June. Like I did not do any writing. That's where I was going with it. What do you think it's going to be like? And okay, so Sacramento's opening back up a little bit. We've been able to do some open mics, open air open mics, right? So we're outside. My friend Miriam Musavi is doing one in a park, and it's people are going. Where do you think the comedy is going to be? Because it's like I am writing like nothing but new material, and I'm talking about the 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 air that we're in right now. Like I'm talking about the pandemic. I'm talking about the vaccines. I'm not talking about the election because I'm just so done with it. But like, where do you think it's going to be? Like, do you think you're going to be able to do your old material? Or you think you're going to need new material? Is it going to be a mashup of both? How are you feeling about
I
that?
think when I come back, I'm just going to be working on new stuff because I've never really, I mean, obviously it does suck to bomb, but I do feel like I've been pretty brave in trying out new material. Like sometimes I would just try it even if I knew it wasn't going to work just to like see what the audience would think. Um, I'm not the same person that I was when I started comedy. Like my life has changed completely. I had
Yeah.
like I'm missing like so I had a hysterectomy last year, so like I am literally like a different person. Like I don't even have the same parts anymore. So I liked like last year, like or I'm sorry, this year, like once the pandemic, like right before the pandemic hit, I was starting to talk more about that, like going through that life change. And
Hmm.
now like my son is getting older. So like I'm starting to talk more about him because as a storyteller comic, like I talk about mostly myself because that's what I know.
Right.
So I think to answer your question, I think I'll be focusing more on new material.
Hmm.
I know a lot of my old material, like I had some pretty good old material, and I'm sure that I'll be able to work it back into my set. But
Yeah.
I kind of want to focus on the person that I am now versus that person.
Yeah. I finally did a set the other night. I did a show in front of people. It was outdoors, and I stuck to I I think I did a total of like 13 minutes, but probably 7 to 8 of it was new material. But I worked in the old material, like the stuff that I knew was solid, right? Like I
Yeah.
worked it in like somewhere in the middle and then right at the end to like just make sure that like I patched it together and I made like this Frankenstein set of like
But
new
I mean
stuff.
that's really what a lot of people do. Like they'll do like the sandwich of material. Like they'll start off with something they know works. They'll sandwich in some new stuff. They'll put a old one, new stuff, and then they usually like close on an old one because it brings the audience back to you if you're starting to lose them on your new material.
Yeah, yeah. And one thing that I'm noticing right now too, and even like my other friends that are doing shows is like, man, uh, people are eager to laugh and to get out and to have a good time. So like the crowds are really good crowds and they're really like just loving every minute of it again. So
It's
I
always amazing to have that receptive audience.
yeah, it's like the audience is like welcoming it was welcoming the comics back as much as the comics are happy to be up on stage again. So I think we're gonna see like a really good time when this is all over. I hope, but we'll see.
I would hope that people are doing new material.
Yeah, yeah, we definitely got to do new material. Yeah, don't come back with that old stuff. Definitely,
No, because the world has literally changed.
it's not the same world, right? It's crazy. Like I think that like what we went through in the last when this is all over, like hopefully like in April, May, it's only going to have been like 14 months. And like what the world has seen in those 14 months, like I think other generations have seen in a decade, you know?
Mhm. I'm curious to see how they will write about it in history books.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Yeah, like what version of the story is told, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's gonna be up to our children. Well, your children. I don't have any kids, but it's gonna be up to like it's gonna be up to your children to like demand the truth and to like to know that this is what happened and why it happened, right? Because there's a lot of like I think we could have avoided a lot of this, but anyway, that's a different topic. What what made you get into comedy? Where like was it something that you always wanted to do and then something happened and you're like, God darn it, I'm gonna do it now.
So for me, I've always been a really sarcastic person and I've always had dark humor. Um, and like a little background on me, like I'm the first granddaughter on my dad's side of the family. So I grew up with all boys.
Oh
And
wow.
yeah, so when you grow up with all boys, like you get a thick skin. Like our love language is roasting people. So for me, like I had to make fun of myself before they would make fun of me. And so I felt like
Absolutely.
that kind of helped me develop this sense of humor. And I had really thought about it. Like I don't know why, but in like 2018, I was like, I'm just gonna write stuff. Like, I mean, I've always loved comedy. I never thought I would actually be up on stage doing it. So um, I think in 2017, I broke my wrist training Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. I had to have surgery, I had some pins put in. And during that downtime is when I couldn't train, so I found like an open mic night to go to. And the very first open mic night I went to, like one of the comedians roasted me. And like that was like one of my biggest fears. I sat all the way in the back and I still caught their eye and got roasted. And so I went back to the next open mic that they had. And like I started out my set like talking about how he roasted me,
Hmm.
and then like I did my material, but my style is so different now. Like I literally had all of my material like typed out. Like it was a whole story.
Wow.
That's how I started comedy. Like I'm not sure, like if he hadn't roasted me, I don't know if that fire would have been lit to actually like do it.
Is that person still doing comedy?
Yes. I love him to death. His name is Andrew Boydston.
Uh-huh.
He's like a staple in Bakersfield. He's also known as like the Barstool Prophet. Um, but yeah, so totally love him. He's a great guy. He's actually going to be performing this month at on live from Room 82
Oh, you're
because
doing live from Room 92.
yeah, so nobody can actually be there except for like a skeleton crew and then the talent. But it gets like broadcast to Facebook Live.
Is this the second one you've done, or is this the first one?
The shows.
The live, the broadcasting from the.
No, I think we're like on episode 8 or 9 now.
Oh wow, that's great. Wow. Okay, and when's that going to be? Like, how? What is it? Like the third
Um,
Thursday? Is it the what?
it's the last Thursday of each month. So this month it'll be on the 29th at 7.
Okay. Nice, nice. That's awesome. And what kind of reception? Isn't it weird to perform with no audience? Well, you said there's a skeleton crew, so
Yeah,
there's
so
like.
I mean the people there get to perform for like the skeleton crew. So they have some people to bounce their ideas off of, and they get that laughter, which I feel like for a comedian, like we I myself like to hear the laughter, because then like I know my material's working and then I can move on to other stuff.
Yeah,
It kind of, when I'm engaged by the audience, like with laughter, it makes me a better comic.
definitely, definitely. Have you tried any of these Zoom shows?
Honestly, I have not. Um, I like being in front of real people, like that I can see.
Yeah.
I honestly I have not tried Zoom shows, even though I've been asked a
Hmm.
lot to be a part of them. It's just, and I know a lot of people say like you need to add, like you need to adapt, but I'm just like, it's just not, I'm not sure that it's my thing.
Yeah, and you know what? A lot of people have said the exact same thing you said, but I also have talked to like a lot of people who were saying that, but then once they tried it, they're like, "All right, it's not the same thing, but it is its own thing, and it does have like its rewarding aspect." I've been doing a couple of Zoom open mics. There's this girl that she was on my podcast a couple of weeks ago. Her name was Tara Christian Wiedner. She's from Bakersfield, but she moved to a Seattle suburb a few years ago. And a friend of mine told me, "Oh, you got to try this open mic," and I was like, "No." And she's like, "No, it's called Russian roulette, and it's everything that I never wanted to do. Like, first of all, like they put your name on a roulette wheel, so you don't know when you're going up.
That's
So they
awful.
spin the right, yeah. They spin the wheel, the name comes up, then they spin the wheel, and you get anywhere between 2 and 4 minutes. No, anywhere between 2, 3, 4, or 5 minutes. Then they spin the wheel again and give you a random topic.
uh so it's like
Yeah,
you have to improv it.
it's everything that I have avoided in doing stand up, but I've done it like 3 or 4 times now, and I lean heavily on my improv past, and it's fun. It's fun. I look forward to doing it. I signed up for it again tonight. I think they're doing one tonight at 9 o'clock. I'm looking forward to it now. But it's just
How long do they usually last?
they go about an hour and a half.
Okay,
So
that's why the
there's
time is so short.
yeah. So um, and luckily I haven't gotten like 1 minute slots. I've had like 2 5 minutes, and I think a 3 minute and a 4 minute, and I've had tons of fun doing it. But I haven't gotten any new material out of it.
Mhm.
But it's been fun to break out of that comfort zone. You know.
I know that I need to at least try one. I just haven't yet.
I'm gonna send you the link, just so you know about it. Maybe you could just watch it. I don't know. Did you watch a lot of comedy growing up? Because like growing up, dude, I freaking loved Robin Williams, Richard Pryor, George Carlin. It's funny though, like I don't like I've revisited George Carlin and he doesn't do it for me anymore.
Mhm.
But Eddie Murphy, like, did you grow up watching comedy or was it?
I grew up watching Mad TV, um, and like that type of comedy. Um, I think when I was a teenager was when I discovered Mitch Hedberg. He's
Oh,
probably my all-time favorite comic. Like he introduced me to what comedy actually is, like stand-up comedy, I should say. So that was like my first impression of stand-up comedy, Mitch Hedberg, and I absolutely loved him because he's not high energy. He
no.
he has this very specific cadence, the way that he delivers things. It's just amazing. Like sometimes he would literally have his sunglasses on and be turned away from the crowd and still get
Or
laughs.
like the or his hair would be flopped down in front of his face, like the microphone would be here, the sunglasses, and you couldn't even see him. But like that distinctive voice, and anytime anyone mentions Mitch Hedberg, I could still hear him saying, "Hey man, you really like Tide." Like when he talks about being in being riding shotgun in a NASCAR race with somebody, and he's like, "Hey man, you really like Tide." And I love Mitch Hedberg, and I think he's one of the most I think he's one
He's
of the
unique.
most he's very unique, but he is very a lot of people really try to copy that cadence and that
The one-liners.
yeah, the one-liners, and like it's kind of like, I don't want to say sloppy, but like you're like if you were like to try to dissect it, you're like, how is this held together? But it's so intelligent and so great.
I
I
think one of my favorite, a couple of my favorites from him, when he's like, "I used to do drugs, I still do, but I used to too."
yes, I when I was looking for albums to put up behind me, I had a Mitch Hedberg album in my hand, but it just like as much as it makes me smile, it also breaks my heart still, and
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. I couldn't put it up. It's because he has a special place in my heart that it's like, I don't know. That's great, Mitch Hedberg. They should make a movie about him, don't you think? Have you heard anything about that?
I haven't heard anything about it. I mean, I would watch it if they did.
Yeah. I
I
heard.
did you see the new like film about Chris Farley?
Oh, like the
I love,
documentary.
yeah, I loved watching him when I was growing up.
Yeah, Farley's another sad story. Yeah, that was a great documentary, and there was several points in that documentary where I was just bawling because like I'm a big guy too, right? So like I grew up like I loved John Belushi was like my first like that's who I want to be when I grow up, and I have a tattoo of the Blues Brothers.
Oh, that's awesome.
Um, but um, to see that like when I see the big guy make it, and like everybody loves the big guy, but then there's that tragic there's always that tragic side of it, because like you touched on something earlier where you said that I used to find something to make fun of myself before I gave somebody a chance to
Yeah.
make fun of me. And I think that a lot of people with their insecurities and a lot of comics, like that's where it started, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's great. When do you when are you hoping that this breaks out? When are you hoping this ends? You think it'll be this year, next year? I think it'll be spring.
Um, I think it'll be over next year. I think right now we're just still in that transition period of keeping places open,
Yeah.
um, or getting to specific stages for different counties. So I don't think things, I'm not sure that we'll ever go back to normal. I don't know that there's a normal for us to go back to.
Yeah, I keep thinking of like one of my favorite things to do was going to the movies, and now like just going to the movies, like just the thought of it, kind of like I don't know.
Anxiety.
Yes, it's yeah, man. Did you freak out at all when this started? Like when this first started, I had some real bad panic and anxiety attacks. How did you cope with it well, or how did you do?
um,
It had to be different having a child, right?
yes. So for me, like okay, so the school district that my son was in before, um, like when everything shut down, they're like, "Oh, we know everything shut down, but we're not going to close until this date." I was like, "Yeah, he's not going to school. Like all of these other things are closed down, he is not going."
Uh,
So that did freak me out. And for me, I'm a germaphobe anyway. Like I've always carried hand sanitizer with me. I've always just been like that, always washed my hands. I've always been like that anyway. So for me, like that didn't really change much. So I did the same thing.
hmm
So I
That's
think
cool.
that kind of helped me cope with it because knew that I was already practicing like I don't even know what to call it, just being safer, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. That's cool. And how did your son deal with it?
Um,
Is he
I,
anxious to go back to school, or
I
have you imposed that germaphobe on him from an
no,
early
definitely
age?
not. Like he knows to wash his hands and stuff like that, but I think it's a lot harder for children to deal with, right? I mean, not a lot harder. It's hard for everyone, but it's really hard for children because they're used to being like in classrooms. They're used to seeing their friends, and now like they just don't get to. It's not like we even gave them an option or an explanation. I mean, obviously like we had to explain afterwards. They know what's going on. Um, but for him, he took it kind of hard because from like one moment in class with his friends, and then now he's like home.
Yeah, yeah. And have they gone to where they're reopening the schools yet in
Um,
Kern, or
I want to say that I just got a notice, like a text or an email, that they're going to start reopening schools.
and are you anxious about that, or
I'm not sure. I'm not sure because one of my friends at the bakery was saying that someone she's related to works at a school, and the classrooms are literally have like these little like shields around their desks. So I feel like they're going to be taking a lot of precaution too.
hmm yeah, I think they're definitely going to have to. So we'll see how that goes, and hopefully we get there soon, and our kids aren't traumatized by all of this, which they're going to be a little bit, right? Like,
I feel like they will be, but at the same time, kids are so adaptable. I
yeah,
feel like
because that's very true. Yeah.
they just like when they deal with something, it's kind of like they just kind of brush it off a little.
Okay. Yeah. Definitely. I hear that. That's great. Jessica, I have had a great time chatting with you and getting to know you because we never met, right? I don't
No,
know.
we have
We have never met. We're Facebook friends, and I think we're Facebook friends really just to like. I was just like, I'm going to support this Bakersfield comic, and I'm like, oh wait, she's pretty funny. Like she's really interesting.
not.
Because like so many like right because like you get this like being like a comic like you get like inundated with friend requests, right?
And
And
I would,
then
at one point, I think I would get hundreds of friend requests a day. Like it was getting insane. And I just stopped accepting people.
yeah, I get super I don't okay, I get super annoyed when like I'll get like a random friend request and it's another comic, never heard of them, but I'll be like, all right, we have like this many friends in common, so I'll accept it. And then I'm just like immediately would like you to like their page, would like you to like this page, would like you to like this page, and I'm just like, dude, like I'm not your audience. Like I'm just another comic just like you. Like I'm not gonna go to your show because I gotta go to my show. Or like I'm not like I don't know. It's I think we all have a lot to learn about how to use social how to lean on social media to point it at the right audience and get something out of it, you know. But what do you want to plug? I will put your social medias on the screen for you. What anything you want to close with? Anything you want to say and
Um,
close? Anything you want to plug? Or
a couple of things actually. So I'd like to, I'm on the board member of Apple Core Project in Bakersfield. So Apple Core Project in Bakersfield work with a lot of homeless in the community. We have a community garden in it's in Bakersfield. It's with another nonprofit organization called Bakersfield Recovery Services. So it's a joint effort. And also Latina Leaders of Kern County and the Junior League of Bakersfield, because those are also nonprofits that I'm a part of. Um, and of course, Room 82.
that's
And
awesome.
any of my social media, which is Jess Another Face.
I was so jealous of your Instagram handle because I was going through all of these like just this, just for laughs, and I could not think of anything cool and snazzy with Jess, and you nailed it with just another face. I was very,
Just Another Face.
I
Like,
was, I was very jealous of that when I saw your Instagram handle. Um, Best of luck to you. You're making me nostalgic right now because like the sun is coming through your window, and I'm kind of getting a little bit homesick knowing that that's the sun from my hometown, and I kind of can feel it like coming through my bedroom window at my mom's house, and uh, I I'll be home for Christmas. So maybe I'll look you up. We'll grab a cup of coffee or
Yeah,
something.
for sure.
But I really enjoyed chatting with you and getting to know you. And even before COVID hit, and I saw what you were doing with Room 82, I was absolutely cheering for you because you're from my hometown. You're a Latina. You're a leader, and you advocate for our people, and I really admire that. And I think we really need
Thank
a
you.
lot more of that. But
Appreciate that.
where'd you go to high school? Did you go to where?
So, I actually, okay, so I'm from Bakersfield, but I grew up on the outskirts of Arvin because my parents have some property out there, not in
Okay,
Arvin, but like the field, like the agriculture area.
yeah,
My family has a trucking company out there, so like it's a pretty good sized property. So I grew up out there, but I went to schools in Bakersfield for a long. So high school, I went to Ridgeview for 3 years.
okay.
But it's weird because like I went to high school there, and then my junior year I transferred to Arvin High, and I did not like it, and then I transferred back to Bakersfield, like to Ridgeview.
That sucks to like, because like your senior year is supposed to be the fun year.
And honestly, I did homeschool, like I did home studies and graduated early.
Oh, okay. So you weren't
Yeah,
all about high school then. You were
no,
just
no, I've never been one of those people. I've never I honestly I don't like people a lot. Um I was a lot I'm a lot more social now, but I used to be very antisocial. Um,
uh-huh.
but I also contributed to the fact that I grew up in the middle of nowhere and all I did was just read. So like, because I didn't have neighbors, like there was like nothing out there.
What were
So
you reading?
I would read anything and everything. I'd read philosophy books. I'd read like books about vampires, like anything and everything. So just a lot of different stuff.
Uh-huh. What are you reading now? Just your Chicano literature stuff?
That and what else? I'm reading a lot of stuff about spirituality,
Yeah.
which is very interesting to me because a lot of it talks about like our egos.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't know about you, but like for me, um, I have like a constant, not like voices talking to me, like it's myself, like I'm constantly thinking in my mind, but like I can also hear that, like what I'm like thinking,
Uh-huh.
like that dialogue, the internal dialogue. So for me, my brain is always constantly going. And so
Gotcha.
what I love about like these spirituality books is like they talk about that, like your inner dialogue and
To
different.
listen to it and to
Yeah,
acknowledge
I
it.
I very much believe in like listening to your intuition, and acknowledging it is also a part of it.
Mm-hmm. So is that like a lot of like Eastern philosophies? Like is that kind of that like is it kind of like leading towards like Buddhism, or is it more
I
modern?
I do like Buddhism. When I went to Thailand, I got to experience like actual people who are Buddhist, so that was pretty cool to me. Um, but I wouldn't say that it's Buddhism, like because I also believe in like astrology and things like that. So it's not necessarily like I have this one belief. I believe in a lot of different things. Like I've kind of just gotten a lot of different parts and just
Yeah. And I
melded it all together.
and I don't think there's anything wrong with that, right? Like we grew up in a time, especially like with our parents, where like it was Catholicism and that was it. Like and like how dare you even like think of something different? Like, are you saying that abuelita's crazy for believing this? I'm like,
But for me,
but
that's where it's a little bit different because my mom's side of the family is Catholic, and my grandma from like my dad, she's Jehovah Witness. So
oh wow.
for me, like I grew up with conflicting beliefs
Yeah,
already.
so it was already there, right?
Yeah, so like I never had just this one hardcore belief that I was taught my whole life. So for me, I felt like that kind of, and I feel like I'm a pretty curious person anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always wanted to know like more and more and more. And like a lot of my questions like that I would have like for the Kingdom Hall, like people did not have answers for me. Like so for me that just makes me like want to learn even more different things. So I myself have never been tied to like religion that heavily.
Right. And I guess like the point I was trying to make is like that we don't need, like I don't think we need to be. I think we just need to find our inner selves, and if our inner self is directing us into something that is similar to Buddhism, then that's fine. Like, right? I like lean a lot on like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Where like it's like we need to like first we need to build a foundation, and then we build up on that, and it's kind of like a pyramid thing until you finally, like, you at the very end you have self-realization, right? Like, but like we need to take care of like the basic stuff first, and then that helps us acquire like who we really are. I
Yeah.
don't know, like I spent a lot of time in my youth just like being like a messed up drug addict and just like not knowing anything. And then it wasn't until like my late 30s and 40s that I started like being like, oh shit, like I got to get my shit together. And like it was like kind of like this stuff. And but yeah, and then the more I read, like the more away from any kind of like standard religion I want to be a part of, because it's just like I don't know, it just they all seem too cultish for me, you know.
And a lot of people would probably call that like your awakening.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
for me, I do feel like that because, like, with comedy and everything else, I worked for the county for almost 10 years. Like, had the retirement plan, all of it. And I was just like, I can't do this anymore. And so I actually resigned from that position last year. It's just been a year now. And I had a pretty good position, I was well paid. And while I make less money now, I'm actually happier because I'm
You're
following
calling.
my calling. I'm not sure what exactly that is right now. I just know that this is going to lead me there.
And you're trusting yourself, you're listening to
Yeah.
yourself. That's awesome, Jessica.
For me, I love doing podcasts and talking about like me leaving my job and like pursuing comedy more and these types of creative endeavors more because I feel like it gives people courage to do the same thing.
Yeah, and then when you say that, like coming like from our culture, right? Like if I had a job with the county and I had been with the county 10 years and I told my mom, my brothers and sisters, okay, I think I'm going to leave this county job. The first thing they would be like, what about your retirement, right? Or what about this? Or what about you were this far away from this next promotion? And I'm like, you know, and like I feel that now because like I'm lucky to have a really solid job right now, and I'm cool with it. But like I give them 8 hours a day, and that's it. And on the weekends and after work, like I work like 12-hour days every Saturday and Sunday on myself, you know. And part of that is like going to thrift shops and just doing stuff that I enjoy, or like working on my podcast because right, like you said, it's just to call it self actualization or self realization, what you call
Felt like I'm not sure what term I used, but 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 being like aware and just that like enlightenment really.
Yeah, yeah. And so I'm fine listening now with my to that inner voice that you talk about. And I think that's why a lot of people end up in the arts to begin with, because like they need to do something different, you know.
And I mean, for some people the 9 to 5 is great for some people, but I'm a pretty creative person and it killed me every day to go to that job. I used to have to badge in, and every time I badged in it literally felt like they were just taking a piece of my soul. Like every day, every time I badged in, like just like that light was just kind of like dying because there's no creativity in those types of jobs at all. There are set rules that you have to follow and you can't change them.
Right, right. That's something that used to drive me crazy too. Where like even when you would try to be like innovative and be like, why don't we try doing it this way, guys? Like it would save us. But you know,
They're like,
like
but this is the way we've always done it.
yeah, this is what
Like
we
I don't
always.
know how many times like I've heard that. And for me, I just like I couldn't do it anymore. And I think my dad was the most supportive when I told him what I was gonna do. And he was like, okay.
That's awesome. Do you do anything else creative? Like, do you draw, paint, write?
um,
I bet you write a little bit.
I write, but it's mostly like I don't know if you saw my birthday post. It's mostly just like stuff that I've learned,
Mm,
like
okay,
life lessons that I've learned. I write poetry sometimes. I paint a little bit, but I'm not super artistic.
Okay. Okay.
I feel like
I,
I'm just like very creative, and I'm it's an interesting type of creative because it's not bound to one form.
yeah. Yeah. That's great. All right. Let's say goodbye again.
Thank
I had
you
a great.
for having me.
Excuse me.
Thank you for having me.
No. Thanks for being on. And yeah, I've been wanting to talk to you for a little while, and but you took that social media break, so I was like, I don't know, is she going through some shit right now? I'll just leave her alone. And the second you pop back up, I was like, all right, let me hit her up. But yeah, yeah, and I'll keep in touch with you. And like I said, I'll send you all this stuff. And thanks for being on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, Jessica, I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye.
All right, take care. Bye.